Warning: the following program may contain language and other elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been fucking warned. Hey guys, Johnny Farrow here, and welcome to another episode of Musician Kitchen. Today we are going to make a killer recipe. This is maple bacon Brussels sprouts. Now, here's the first thing with this recipe. Before you even get into it, you got to say it right, okay? You got to punch the word bacon, okay? You can't just be like maple bacon Brussels sprouts, because that's just lame, and this is a killer recipe. And you don't want to, like, if you start off saying it wrong, you just fuck it up from the beginning, right? Maple bacon Brussels sprouts, okay? So here's what we got going on here. We got Brussels sprouts here. We got walnuts, maple syrup, butter, bacon, of course, onion, ground cinnamon, salt, pepper, balsamic vinegar, and avocado oil, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to make the Brussels sprouts, we're going to make some candied walnuts, and they're going to be maple candied walnuts, which is where the maple comes in, and then we're going to cook up some bacon, and then put that all together, and it's going to be glorious. So we're going to start by chopping up some Brussels sprouts. This is a 14-ounce bag of Brussels sprouts. And these usually come pretty clean, but if you have doubts, you can definitely throw these in a colander and wash them, rinse them before you cut them up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut these, take the ends off, cut them in half here. I'll actually give you a better look at that. So you cut the end off here, and then you cut in half and into the bucket. And you just do that with all these. I'm going to go ahead and just chop these up real quick here. Pro tip, and this is all about proper cutting technique. If you notice when I'm cutting my Brussels sprouts, I'm actually holding my knife with my thumb and forefinger on the spine of the knife, just ahead of the handle. The reason for that is it gives me more control over the knife. If I hold it back here and I'm cutting and rocking the blade, it's real easy for this blade to just go all over the place. It's really easy to cut yourself that way. So to maintain proper control, full control of your blade, always hold it with your thumb and forefinger on the spine and control it that way. You'll get a much cleaner cut and you'll be way less likely to take a finger off. All right, so now that we got our Brussels sprouts cut up, we are now going to cut up half of this onion. Now you can double this recipe, so if you're cooking for a bigger crowd, by all means just double everything that you see here, and that's it. Now with onions, I'm a little lazy. Now my grandmother, who was an old German lady, I would watch her like meticulously just peel just this outer layer off. I'm really lazy and impatient, so I just take the first layer of onion off. It's easy, onions are cheap, fuck it, right? And again, just cutting. And you can totally cut this in half and then slice. I like bigger slices of onion. And I like to break the onion up a little bit before I throw it in the bowl, just so I don't get like onion chunks, right? And there we go. Into the bowl. So now we got everything chopped up here. So now we're going to add some oil. I got avocado oil here. Now a little information on oil is I never like cooking with things like olive oil. Very low smoke point, which basically means they denature when they get heated. Things like avocado oil, coconut oil, high smoke point, that means that they maintain their chemical structure, which at the end of the day just means it's healthier. They don't get all funky and rancid, which then turns into not so healthy, right? So I'm just going to drop some oil in here, enough to get everything nice and coated. Give this a little tossy toss. Whew. And then a little salt. And this is Himalayan pink salt. Now I go a little heavier on the salt on this just because it really does complement the flavor. Nice little pepper here. And here's a music parallel for you. Salt to me is a lot like reverb when you're doing music, right? So salt, if you use small amounts of it, will bring the flavor out of things, okay? It'll bring flavors forward without overpowering the dish. You can totally use more salt to enhance the flavor and do more than just bring flavor out, but to change it. If you oversalt, it's like putting too much reverb in your mix. It just everything sounds like mud, everything tastes like crap, basically, right? So we got our salt, we got our pepper, and then this is kind of my secret weapon on Brussels sprouts, balsamic vinegar for the win. And what this does, it does add a touch of sweetness, but it also brings out the flavor of the Brussels sprouts specifically. Brussels sprouts too, by the way, they get a bad rap. You know, I know a lot of kids don't like eating them and such. I personally love them. They're like little freaking cabbages. They're a very robust, very hearty vegetable, great in the winter, especially. So this is all nice and mixed now. And by the way, the reason I like tossing as opposed to using a spoon to mix is that you get a more even, complete distribution of your seasonings that way. Now, I got a baking sheet here, a cookie sheet with parchment paper. So we're just going to layer this evenly onto the cookie sheet, doing the best we can to make sure that we don't have anything that you know, it's a single layer. Nothing's like all bunched up on here, right? And that's just to ensure that everything cooks evenly and the way it should. All right, so now we got my oven preheating here at 375 degrees. These go in for 25 to 30 minutes. I usually do mine at 25. I like them a little more al dente. If you like yours a little softer, throw them in for 30 minutes. You know, and even if after 30 minutes you check them and they're still not soft enough, just cook them in 5-minute increments till they're where you want them. I'm going to pop mine in for 25 minutes. Again, my oven's been preheating for about 10 minutes. I like to do that to make absolute sure that my oven is fully preheated. So here we go. We're going to pop these in, and then we're going to get on to the next 2 phases of our dish. All right, guys, so on to phase 2 of our recipe. We are going to candy some walnuts, and before we candy them, we're going to roast them. The reason for that, the raw walnuts, they got a nice flavor, but when you roast them, they get a little more intense, a little more robust, a little more earthy flavor to them, which I really dig as a contrast to the sweetness in the candying process. So, a little bit of avocado oil into my pan, not a ton. We're doing a wet roast here as opposed to a dry roast. We're going to get the heat on to high heat. Let her roll. All right. And I'm just going to we're going to do about a cup of walnuts here. Right in. Throw a few extra in because I'm feeling generous. You know, it's always good to make a little extra on the candied walnuts because frankly, when I'm making them, I like to pick at them. And then all we're going to do here, we're going to just start tossing them around. You know, every few seconds. We're also going to throw a pinch of salt in there with them. And I mean just a pinch. Little tossy toss. And we're just going to keep doing that every few seconds. It's going to be usually like 2 to 3 minutes, maybe as much as 4 or 5, depending on how high you have your heat. You just kind of keep tossing them around. You want to keep them moving. And then when you start to see them kind of brown up a little bit, they start to get a little aromatic. You can already start smelling it a little bit. You know, 2-3 minutes, 4 to 5 max, and then they're just perfect. Again, also depending on how well you like them roasted, and you don't actually even have to roast the nuts if you don't want to. This is just the way that I do it. All right, so these are nice and brown, and you can smell them. They don't smell burnt, but they just got that nice, earthy, roasted scent to them. So I'm going to go ahead and just dump these in a bowl to set aside for the moment. And now we are going to use the same pan, and we're going to get our candying concoction together. And this is very simple. We got a little butter here. Into the pan, we're going to go to medium-high heat. So again, still fairly high heat. Now I'm going to wait for this butter to completely melt down, and then I'm going to throw some maple syrup in with it. Now the maple syrup, by the way, it's something you can swap out. You can use maple syrup. You can do honey. You can use brown sugar if you want, which I think traditionally is what any kind of candied nut has in it. I like the maple syrup because I like the flavor of it, and it is actually just healthier too. So our butter's totally melted. A little maple syrup into the pan. Nice and sizzly. Not Sicily, but sizzly. All right, we're maintaining medium to medium-high heat here. And you don't want things you want to keep things swirling around so nothing burns or anything like that, right? This is going to be very fast. You don't need it to be in here very long. You can see it's already starting to caramelize and thicken up. So next we toss in our nuts. You can do this at a lower heat if you want and have it take a little longer. It's up to you, but I'm just going to get my nuts going in here. That just sounded wrong. And we're just going to toss. And we're going to do this until everything reduces. You're going to actually see literally that the liquid elements of this will just reduce. There will be less of it in the pan. And you'll just notice that the nuts are nice and coated. It's going to take you like 3 to 4 minutes-ish of the nuts in the pan to get them really worked down. Keep them moving most of that time. Again, just because you don't want anything to burn, you don't want anything to chunk up on you. You just want these to come out nice and beautiful and perfect. Just like my wife, who, by the way, is my camera lady. Nice and browned up now, so this is exactly where we want. We're going to take a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper for these to cool. Just kind of let them layer out onto there. And those are gorgeous looking. Woo! Oh yes. Again, very important. Like, it's really easy to go past the point of no return, so to speak, on this. These are pretty dark. These are about as dark as you would want to go. I could have even taken them off, 30 seconds earlier and it would have been fine. So we're going to set these aside. And next, le bacon. All right, so this is just some uncured hardwood smoked bacon. You can use whatever bacon you like, thick slice, thin slice, whatever. I personally like a thicker sliced bacon. I'm just going to pull some of this out of here. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut this into pieces, roughly, like 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick. Something like that. And this is not an exact science, it's freaking bacon, so it's going to be delicious no matter what. Just cutting into some chunks, and realize that these pieces will get a little bit smaller too because it's a fatty food, and as it renders, it will break up. Right. Le bacon! Alright, so we got that all set to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to throw a little bit of oil into the pan, just a touch, and I know a lot of people will just cook their bacon directly into the pan. I like throwing the oil in just to make sure there's zero stickage. I'm going to throw this onto a medium-high heat just to get it rolling. And you can actually even do this while you're cutting your bacon if you chop fast enough. So we're going to let that heat up for just a minute here. Let the oil just coat the pan. And I personally am going to cook this bacon until it's crispy. If you want to go with limp bacon, you can. No one's going to judge you, at least not to your face. Okay? All right, so our pan is heated up a little bit here now. The oil is moving around nice and easy. So we're going to go ahead and just toss all of our bacon in there. Sizzle! Oh, yes! I think it was Jim Gaffigan that said, even the sound of bacon sounds like applause. It's so good. We're just going to get it moving around the pan here. The other thing with bacon is that even though it's a fatty food, it is a meat. Meat can stick, and that is the other benefit of the oil, is it minimizes the sticking. Now, this is not a non-stick pan, so there's still a little stickage happening, but I got a little trick for how to handle that later. Right now, we're just going to get our bacon all nice and browned up here. I love the smell of bacon in the morning. Smells like victory. Alright guys, so this bacon is nice and crispy. Now I told you I was going to do a little trick. I'm going to deglaze this pan, but before I do, I'm going to take some of this bacon grease out because bacon grease and liquids are dangerous when combined. Like water and such, anything watery. So I'm going to take, and just in a ceramic bowl, just let some of this bacon grease drain so we don't set fire to the place. Okay? And I lost the man off the boat, so I'm going to get him rescued. And now what I did, I turned my heat down to a low because I don't want splishy splashies making fires. Got me some cider vinegar. We're going to just throw some of this in the pan. We'll add a really super nice flavor, and we'll also help get some of the bacon matter, so to speak, up off of the pan, which will also make for easier cleaning when you get to that point in your evening or day or morning or whenever you happen to be making this dish. I'm going to throw a little more in there and turn my heat up a touch. And you can deglaze with water. You can throw some, actually would be really nice for a deglaze on a dish like this is brandy. Works nice for deglaze if you got some brandy around. Any kind of cooking wine is great for deglazing. So there you go. All right. So now I'm going to put this onto a plate with some paper towel, with some paper towel. God, I can talk. With a paper towel for just to drain and cool off a little bit. And then while these were going, my Brussels sprouts actually did finish up. So I'll show you what those guys look like. So the Brussels sprouts came out gorgeous. Now you got the Brussels sprouts are cooked nice and al dente. You got the skins, because I throw all the Brussels sprout, and even like the loose little leaves that end up falling off the Brussels sprout, those go in, and those are nice and crunchy and super delicious. If you don't like those, you can leave them out. I personally dig the crunchy, salty, like skins of the Brussels sprouts. The onions are cooked perfectly, so this is going to be a delicious dish. Now, the other thing I want to show you, you got your candied walnuts here. Now, these are literally hardened, so you need to break those up a little bit so that you can actually toss them with your Brussels sprouts and have them mix in and incorporate. But they break apart real easy, you know, just like peanut brittle or that kind of a candy, you know. And oh my God, get in my mouth. Tastes like Cracker Jacks. So we're just going to let things cool down a bit. Like I said, the Brussels sprouts just came out of the oven. The bacon just came out of the pan. We're going to let things cool down for like 5 minutes just to let them, you know, chill a little bit. And then we're going to mix everything together and we'll plate this stuff up and it will be mwah! So stick around. All right, guys, so our Brussels sprouts have been sitting for like 5 minutes, so they're cooled off a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to toss them into a bowl here, and I'm just going to lift them in the parchment paper. Nice and easy peasy. And just dump them straight into the bowl here. Biggity bam. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring over our candied nuts. Now, with the nuts and the bacon, leave a little bit set aside to garnish over the top, or at least that's what I like to do. So I'm going to throw most of these in here with my Brussels sprouts, leaving just a little bit to sprinkle on top. Same with my bacon, my crispy bacon. Then again, just a little toss. It's all on the wrist, ladies and gentlemen. It's all on the wrist. Then I'm just going to get it right in here into my fancy bowl that my daughter actually painted. Take my remaining bacon with a hard capital B. And that's about right, but since I just can't watch bacon go to waste, you know? Oh, throw some nuts on top of there. And that is the shit right there. There you go, maple, bacon, Brussels sprouts. Notice the hard B on bacon. And this is great. Christmas is coming up. Awesome dish to bring to Christmas. Awesome for just dinner any day of the week. Super Bowl Sunday, it's a great dish. It's a meal unto itself. It's a side. It's whatever you need it to be. It's like the ideal woman, right? So maple bacon, Brussels sprouts, try them out. Let me know in the comments below how you like this recipe. Let me know what other recipes you would love to see me do on future episodes. And until then, guys, I'm Johnny Farrow. It's been a blast. I'll see you next time. Mwah.